you can make great food at home, it's easy, fun, and affordable. Hi, I'm Chef Jim Yocum. I'm hoping to help you up your game in the kitchen today. Today we're going to be talking about sous-vide cooking. Okay, what is sous-vide cooking and why am I hearing about that now? Sous-vide cooking solves a fundamental physics problem that we have in cooking, and that problem is that fire is a whole lot hotter than the temperature you want to have food at. So here's the basic game. You take your food, rather than staying it on a hot grill, which is going to burn whatever it is on the outside, the inside's going to be dead raw and you're going to have two little strips that are kind of cooked the way you want it to be. No. Instead of that, you take your food, you put it in a Ziploc bag, you put the Ziploc bag in a water environment that's exactly the target temperature that you want your food to end up at. It slowly, gently gets to the target temperature and just stays there. You're not going to burn it because your temperature isn't above what you want your food to be at. So for example, pork loin. We were taught in culinary school that medium rare is between 125 and 145 degrees. Well, that's not quite right. The actual ideal temperature is in between that at about 138 degrees. So we take our pork loin, we stick it in a Ziploc bag, we stick it in a water bath that's exactly 138 degrees, and we let it sit there for a few hours. Gently gets to the temperature that we want, we take it out, we enjoy it. What's not to like? If you want the extra credit points, you can actually sear it to get that nice browning. It's called the Menard process on the outside. That works for steaks, it works for pork, it works for chicken, it works for salmon, it works for carrots. Whatever you want cooked to the right temperature works for sous vide cooking. So with that, let's actually see how this works. So here we have a pork loin. We're just going to give it a little slit so that it has a chance to get the flavors in. Then actually do that all the way around. We're going to put the herbs that we want. This is actually all extra credit. You don't need to do this if you don't want to, but we like to do things. We're then just going to sear it off. Again, this is not cooking it. This is just putting that sear on the outside. A nice hot griddle. And here that sear means that the water molecules are actually jumping off and boiling off, which is different from steaming. So this is literally just a few seconds. Shut that off. Stick it in a Ziploc bag. Turn this off now so you can actually hear me. We're going to take our product. We're going to put it in our water bath. Just so it doesn't go anywhere, we're just going to put paper clips, or clothespins, which are your best friend. And we're going to let it sit there for a few hours. In this case, maybe 4 hours or so. Bring it out, eat it. What's not to like? If it sits in there for 6 hours, it doesn't matter. Hi. We've actually got some good questions that I'd like to address. And let's see if we can get them right.
Hey Jim, I notice you have a couple of different sous vide machines.
Yep.
What's the difference?
Great question. There are very little differences between them. When these things first came out, they were really expensive. They were thousands of dollars. Subsequently, they came out with this guy, which was a mere $199. I was extremely happy. Went out, bought them. Subsequently, they've come out at lower and lower prices, and they essentially all do the same thing. There are three things in one. They're water heaters They're water circulators, and they're very accurate thermometers. They're thermocouples. So if you look at the insides of any of them, they're all the same. This one was, I think, less than 50 bucks. And again, they're all the same idea. Again, water heaters, water circulators, real accurate thermometers. They all have slight differences. They all have slightly different user interfaces. Some have Wi-Fi, which is not of much value to me because I'm always here when I'm cooking. One of them, called Joule, is nice because these guys have a fairly large minimum amount of water. Joules are smaller. Joules are also actually handy because they're physically smaller, which back in the day when we were all traveling with these was kind of a big deal because they take up room in the suitcases. Now most people, even my brother, has one of these, so whenever I go traveling, I can pretty much depend on people having them in their homes. So the short answer is the main difference is price. So if I were to buy one today, I'd just go on the web, find the lowest price I can find. Today I was looking, I think they're under 50 bucks. So that's the main difference between them.
So Jim, I noticed you use plastic bags.
Yes.
Can this be any plastic bag?
No. This was actually a huge concern we had when this technology was first being introduced. I've actually asked that of Chef Thomas Keller, and his recommendation was to use brand name freezer Ziplocs because we know the chemistry of these. Now there might be other bags that have the same chemistry, we just don't know. So that's the short course on that. Other people have asked, is there a way of getting around not using disposable plastic as we're trying to save the landfill? Just recently there's been a nice person, SIO Chef, Sous Chef I guess is what they're shooting for, that make these things which are reusable plastic bags. Again, I suspect there are others out there on the market, I just happen to know about this one. They have the advantage of being reusable. Also, we really know the chemistry of these just like we know the chemistry of Ziplocs and tend to trust that. The downsides of these are that they're much more expensive. They're like 20 bucks or so to buy as opposed to, I think, like 7 cents a bag for the Ziplocs. The other downside of these is they do tend to stain. So you have to clean them with lemon juice, etc. I actually talked to the inventors of these and he recommended lemon juice or vinegar, and even that doesn't get them completely clean.
So these aren't the same as a pressure cooker, but they do some of the work that a pressure cooker would do.
Great question. Yes, I can understand the confusion on that because sous vide essentially translates to under pressure. It's two words, S-O-U-S-V-I-D-E. Nobody likes that name, including the people that came up with the name many years ago. The original focus was on the pressurization. It used to, again, it was like $6,000 to get into this game. Now it's less than the price of a good knife. What the original focus was, again, was the pressure. Now we're realizing the real key part of this is the precision cooking. So they're not pressure cookers. Pressure cookers are great, but they're essentially a one-trick pony. They bring water, well, as everyone knows, water boils at 212 degrees Fahrenheit at sea level. Pressure cookers bring that up to 250 degrees, and it's really great for quick, fast cooking of things like rice or steel-cut oats, that sort of thing, which we do a lot. But sous vide is sort of the opposite of that. It's very, very precise cooking at a much lower temperature. So actually the analogy that sort of comes to mind is with traditional cooking, imagine you're on an elevator that's targeted at 450 degrees. Imagine the elevator doesn't have any doors. This is, let's say, 450 degrees, but you want your salmon cooked to 125 degrees. So assume you're rocketing up and floor 125 comes whizzing by and you have to jump out the door as it goes by. You're probably not going to hit the 125th floor, and by the way, you're probably going to get banged up in the process. So instead of rocketing to the temperature you don't want, you set to the temperature you want, in the case of salmon, 125 degrees. You gently get there, the door's open, you walk out, life is good. So again, sous vide you set to the target temperature, 125 degrees. It slowly gets there and it just stays there. A whole new way of doing things. It's a little different, and until you've done it 2 or 3 times, it's a little weird, but after you've done it 3 times, it's like, why would I ever cook any other way? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Great.
What about if you're new to it and you are a little afraid of experimenting too much on your own? Are there cookbooks available?
There are. Actually, Chef Thomas Keller, probably the most reputable chef currently working, most respected chef going, wrote one on sous vide cooking a few years ago. But I find the best source is actually the web. You know, think of it as our extended brain. You can go out, look up whatever you want, just type sous vide chicken or sous vide beef.
That raises a question.
Excellent.
How, if you're going to search the web, how is this spelt?
S-O-U-S, sous like sous chef, S-O-U-S. Second word is V-I-D-E. So it essentially translates out to under pressure because the food is under water pressure. A better name is actually precision cooking. Everybody seems to like that phrase better, but nobody seems to be using it. So just get used to sous vide and away we go.
What about for those of us who, shall we say, are more on the vegan side?
Excellent question, yes. Well, most of the attention goes to proteins. For example, salmon, pork, beef, chicken, whatever. It's also great for vegetables. You know, essentially anything that you want cooked to the proper temperature. We did carrots the other night and they were great because just like the physics of other foods, you want it cooked consistently throughout the entire product, be it carrots, be it broccoli, be it peas, be it whatever. And that's what sous vide allows you to do. So you put your carrots in a Ziploc bag, stick it in at the target temperature, which curiously for vegetables is higher. It's about 165 degrees. And whenever you're ready, as soon as the temperature has gone all the way through the product, anytime after that you can take it out and it's good.
So, Jim, this sounds like the best thing since sliced bread.
It is.
But the question I have is there anything that is just not worthwhile cooking in sous vide?
There actually are. Actually, the most famous food scientist currently going is a guy by the name of Harold McGee, who's a PhD, very bright guy. And he described this technology as being a bigger deal than microwaves. For those of us that are old enough to remember when microwaves first came out, it's like, whoa, what do you mean I can bake a potato in 8 minutes? But yes, there are things that just aren't worth the effort. Scrambled eggs, for example. They work great. You can scramble up an egg, put it in a Ziploc bag, stick it in there, and wait for a half an hour, and it comes out good. But no better than scrambling in a regular pan, to my experience.
So, you're using a regular pot today.
Yep.
But I've seen you use other things other than regular pots.
We use basically anything that holds water. So one of the favorite weapons actually are plastic buckets. You know, we've seen, I think this one cost $1, whatever. And it's really handy for a few reasons, not the least of which being it's really cheap. You know, these pans are like, this set of pans are thousands of dollars. As opposed to $1, that's great. Just put the water in it, stick the sous vide circulator in it. I put it down my workbench when I'm letting it go for 2 or 3 days, and it's out of sight, out of mind. 2 or 3 days, I go down, fish it out, make my family happy. Put the wow on, friends, guests, whatever. So yes, you can cook basically anything that holds water. You want something with a fairly steep side so that the clips work. And you want something that, it needs to be deep enough that you can put enough water in it, but it doesn't need to be that big. I did salmon in this guy last night, and it's great. You know, we were just making a small piece of salmon for an appetizer, and it's less water, so we didn't have to heat a lot of water or waste a lot of water, which incidentally, we use the heated water to wash dishes afterwards, or we reuse the water a few times.
Jim, okay, this is probably going to really sound off the wall.
Oh, good. I love off-the-wall questions.
Can I do stews?
Sure. You can do anything that you want cooked to the right temperature. One of the best recipes I've ever had was for a stew by, again, Thomas Keller. He has a great recipe. The problem is he cooks each component separately. So he'll cook the carrots separate from the beef. He'll cook the onions separately. He'll cook, essentially everything differently, which is, frankly, one of the reasons we've got multiple sous vide circulators, other than the fact that they're cheap and why not. So yeah, you can cook it. In fact, you can cook it traditionally if you have a single temperature that you want to hit. One of the beauties of the system is, again, you cook things to within 1/10 of a degree of the ideal temperature. So if you want your stew cooked to 138 degrees, that's fine. You chop up the pieces, you put it in. If you want to sear, for example, if you're doing a beef stew, if you want to sear the beef before you put it in, highly recommend it. Sear the beef, put it in with your carrots and your stock and whatever. Bring it up to temperature, you're good to go.
Okay, Jim, what about cooking times?
Yep.
Do the optimal cooking time versus, shall we say, the minimal cooking times?
Great. This is kind of a religious question. If you go on the web, no doubt, what's the old joke? You ask 5 cooks what the optimal temperature is for a steak, you'll get 6 different answers. It's the same thing on the web, kind of run amok. There are people who firmly believe that a pot roast cooked for 2 days is optimal. There are others that believe, 2 days is okay, but 3 days is really optimal. Whatever. I've cooked them for as little as an hour or so. If they're thin enough pieces of beef such that the temperature can get all the way through them, I've had good luck at as little as an hour. We'll take beef, we'll cut it, we'll put it in the Ziploc bags, reasonably thin, cook it for an hour, it comes out great. Conversely, I've also put it in a pot, put it downstairs for 3 days, it comes out great. So, and we've had things come up and said, oops, we're planning on having this on Thursday, but some things come up, we'll get to it the next day.
For those of us who were raised in the old school, that...
Love the old school.
Yeah, the old school saying that...
Love the old school.
Cooking things that for too long at low temperatures allowed bacterial growth.
Great point, yes. In culinary school, we were taught that the danger zone is 40 to 140 degrees, that we really want to keep things below 40 or above 140. That if we're in that zone, that was where bad things happen. Okay. While that's true, it's overly simplistic, because instead of just being a simple, imagine a temperature line with minus infinity down there and positive infinity up there, and here's 40 degrees and here's 140 degrees. And if you're in that zone, you're in the danger zone. Well, okay, true, but overly simplistic. What you really want is both temperature and time. So if you have food at, say, 138 degrees and it's there for an extended period of time, that also kills off bad things. So actually, Thomas Keller's been busted for this by the New York Safety Department for cooking things to 138 degrees, which is obviously below 140 degrees. But he's made and proven the point that if it's at 138 degrees for an extended period of time, bad things die off and life is good. Actually, at 140 degrees, proteins start tightening up and bad things start happening. So physically, chemically, one is motivated to keep below 140 degrees where the juices stay in and the proteins don't tighten up and life is better.
Matilda and I have noticed recently that pork doesn't taste the way it used to.
I had the same exact experience. And what I found, this was before the days of sous vide, I'd actually given up on pork because the story goes that people are now, the breeders of pigs are now going for just the bacon, and they're essentially throwing away the pork loin. You know, all their cash crop is in the bacon, and anything they can pick up for the pork loin is just extra. So what I was doing was, like so many other people, is I was roasting it in traditional ovens, and it didn't have much flavor. Well, the problem is I was cooking all the flavor out of it. If you cook it to 138 degrees, it's actually good. It actually has great taste, it has great moisture, it's a wonderful thing. And oh, by the way, it's lean and healthy. So, sous vide to the rescue. Conventional ovens fluctuate by like 50 degrees from where you set them to. Even if you set it to 138 degrees, it's going to bounce, you know, up to as much as a couple hundred degrees or down to like 100 degrees. With sous vide, it's just exactly 138 degrees plus or minus a tenth of a degree for as long as it's in there for. So, cook pork sous vide, it's actually spectacular. Please come to my website if you have any questions. Write me at jim@chefjimyocum.com. We're probably going to have a second show answering questions that other people might ask. I've been cooking this way for a few years now and have discovered things that you will certainly find if you do it long enough, but let's just, you know, shortcut to your learning curve, and I can just show you the tricks that I've learned and hopefully make life easier for you. Hope you enjoy. Thanks again for watching. I'm Jim Yocum. Bye for now.